Hello everybody and welcome to another Deck Tech deck discussion video where we will be talking about a deck that I played with over the weekend from AndyR called Lightbringer, and it is an aggression Valkyrie deck which I took up against Mysterio and the Shadow King. And I think that was the really good showing of this deck. And I wanted to talk about it because I like to talk about every deck I play with. But this one especially impressed me because Valkyrie obviously has her shortcomings. And I should also probably have the Death Glow up here just to kind of like help in case you're just not familiar with Valkyrie. But Valkyrie has her shortcomings, not going to pretend like she doesn't. But this was definitely a deck that I looked at and went, I see a lot of promise here. And I wanted to explore it some. And I think that, like I said, it had a really good showing. There's one card selection that I might reconsider if I were to make a second attempt. But either way, let's get into this because the core of this deck is built around Take That, which is a 3-cost event that came out of the Iceman pack. And it costs 3. It is an attack traded, and it is a hero action attack. Deal 7 damage to an enemy with an upgrade attached. And especially in Iceman, that is very relevant. Obviously, we have the Death Glow, which is an upgrade that we can attach to an enemy. So for Valkyrie, and honestly, Valkyrie with Take That is a pretty low-hanging fruit. As soon as I saw it, as somebody who likes to play Valkyrie, this was definitely something that I thought of immediately. But what kind of goes above and beyond here, and that I was actually able to play into while playing my game, is that the other upgrades that we're going to be putting on can be very beneficial, especially to someone like Valkyrie, where she has her weaknesses. So let's, real quick, look at the upgrades that are going to be able to help us to use Take That to prolong the game and to do the best that we can with what we've got. So right off the bat, the one that I think is the best indication of what we can do here is Gatekeeper. A 0-cost upgrade. It is a condition. You attach to you attach to a minion. The attached minion gets +2 hit points, gains patrol, which means that we can't thwart the main scheme while the minion is in play. But then when you defeat the minion, you remove 4 threat from the main scheme. With Valkyrie having only 1 thwart, that is a miracle. She already wants to be defeating minions. This allows you to defeat minions and thwart down the main scheme, which once again is the thing that we want to do the most. And while playing this scenario, you started the game out with the Aberrations. I don't remember their full name, but they're a 1/1 with guard, and when you defeat them, you shuffle in the top card of the encounter deck into your deck, so it goes along with the theme. With this, you give them +2. You give them +2 health, so they turn into 3 health. And if you happen to have your Dragon Fang, you can defeat them. If you put the Death Glow onto them, obviously you overkill them, or you deal them excess damage, which the stipulation on them is that if you deal excess damage to them, then you shuffle the top card into your deck. In this context, at least, you're able to put them up to 3 and then just attack for 3, take them out. The main scheme, which I think was at 2 at the time, or it starts at 2. You can just get it all the way down. The only drawback here is that the Death Glow does ready you back up when you defeat the minion, so you will not get to get the minion, or you will not be able to ready back up after that. Layers. There's layers and layers and layers to all of this. The decision tree on this deck actually gets into a little bit of the bonkers, but I would say that in a typical scenario, not just going based off what we did, but in a typical scenario, Valkyrie's going to kind of like just brush off the fact that she gave the minion extra 2 health, and is really going to be able to take advantage of what Gatekeeper's doing. You should be able to just take the Death Glow, take down a minion, remove 4 threat, and ready back up so that you can go against another one. Additionally, we have Suppression Fire, which also came out of the Iceman pack. Another 0-cost upgrade, perfect for us because we're already kind of fighting to use our resources as well as possible. This comes into play when you defeat the minion that it's attached to, which you can only put 1 on per minion. That's actually fascinating, actually, because Gatekeeper does not have that stipulation. So you could, in theory, bump up their health by 4 and then remove 8 threat from the main scheme. Have not ever done that in any context, but that's actually interesting thing you could do. Either way, Suppression Fire, you attack, you defeat the minion, you heal up 2 damage. In the game that I played, there was at least one point when I could have done this, and I think I probably should have at least seen that. I did not see that as an option, but being able to heal up some would have possibly bought me a little bit of room just to stay in hero mode, to kind of survive 1 or 2 extra attacks. These are all lessons that you learn. But once again, this is a free upgrade that you can put on that turns on Take That, which is not necessarily the most important thing, but is definitely, it's one of the goals you're trying to make. And additionally, you can use, when you have Suppression Fire, you can also take advantage of Have At Thee, which deals 7 damage, and if they have the Death Glow, which once again is an upgrade attached, that attack gains Overkill. So that means that not only will you be recovering 2 damage, but you're probably also carrying damage over to the villain, which can be very important. And I mean, at its core, Take That is kind of like your 4th through 6th copy of Have At Thee. So those are the upgrades that we're really going to be prioritizing. Obviously, we always have the Deathglow in our back pocket, but we've got the other 6 upgrades that really kind of like help us to have Take That be relevant. And I think there's enough Take That's and Have At These that you can reasonably say that you probably will have one in your hand at all times. Obviously, it doesn't happen, but you can hope for it. Clobber is a 2-cost event that I think it's the other attack event that we have in the deck, and I think it's one that I definitely see the value in. And I think that if I don't think about what Current is going to look like going forward, because we just don't know what that's going to look like yet, but Clobber seems like the kind of card that's going to have value in Current, because right now it is part of the X-Men waves. It's reasonable to say that this is going to be a card that will be around when we move into a Current environment. And the way that I'm looking at Current is that the heroes are kind of evergreen. Whatever heroes you have is the heroes you have. But if you want to do, I guess there's going to be true Current, which is just you only use the heroes and the cards that are available. And then there's kind of like a modified Current where you have a hero and you only use the card base from Current. That's a different discussion for a different day. But I do actually see Clobber as the one card that I would reconsider maybe picking something else. I don't actually know what I would pick, but it just didn't do enough for me, and it kind of left me feeling like I was jumping through hoops to do nothing. Now, obviously, in the context of Gatekeeper plus that aberration, Clobber is perfect. But the fact that, and I didn't even explain what the card does. Obviously, you can see it on the screen. But the fact that it deals 3 damage, and then if it's the first card you play, it returns to your hand. That is nice, especially in a deck where your economy is of the top concern. Because you can turn Clobber into an attack that defeats your Deathglowed minion, and then this becomes your way to pay for the next Deathglow. So that is helpful. I will not deny that. I have gotten a lot of use out of Clobber. I just question if there isn't maybe a different card that we could be prioritizing. And not to say this exactly, but let's get into the cards that I think really help here. So we've got 3 upgrades that each, I guess this doesn't help with the Deathglow, but it does help with the economy. So all 3 of these cards, 2 copies of Enhanced Awareness and Martial Prowess, are giving us resources, which is important. We are short on resources. We need to be able to play the Deathglow multiple times a turn. These are going to help us. This is going to help us to have our events get paid for so that we can use our resources to get the Deathglow, et cetera, et cetera. I have to wonder if maybe substituting Clobber for maybe not more copies of these, but cards like them, like just resource generators, might not be the worst idea. And of course, this is all with hindsight. When AndyR, who's the person that built this deck, he was building it for one context. He was building it for an episode of The Winning Hand, and just to highlight, Take That. with some time to reflect and even just reflect on the game, I think that Clobber could have been a resource generator, but that's up to you to decide. I do think that Enhanced Awareness is a really interesting pick because it does make Deathglow that much more relevant. With the two of these combined, 6 activations to put the Deathglow on is probably the entire game. You will burn through these, but I think that you will be in very good condition. Like these are very. I constantly compare these after I had a reconsideration here. I started to think about these more like overcosted web shooters from Spider-Man, and realizing that generally the web shooters, whenever I've played either Miles or Peter, obviously they don't always last the entire game, but they generally last pretty deep into the game. You play them and you get your 3 activations out of each one of them, and that generally gets you through maybe half or 2/3 of the game. So I definitely have reconsidered that. I think the enhanced cycle were sort of maligned, and I even maligned them. But now I'm kind of looking at them going, you know what? I do see a context where, especially in heroes that need economy, these are very helpful. And obviously martial prowess, just being able to be that event thing is also great. Additionally, one more resource kind of generator thing is Helicarrier, which is just going to reduce the cost of things. That also helps with playing the Deathglow. That also just helps with like playing out her weapons, because both of her weapons, the Dragon Fang and the Shield Maiden, the Spear, both cost 1. This can just be a way to get out your restricted weapons. Feels great. And just kind of the same thing I was just saying about everything else. This is just a slightly more expensive thing, but this just stays in the table. It constantly does what it's doing, does great, and yeah, it probably should have been lumped in with the other resource generators because it's a glorified resource generator. Moving on to the allies, and these are probably the least concerning things to me. Oops. Yeah, you can see what all these are. Okay, so we've got Throg, Nick Fury, Shark Girl, Angela, and Ironheart. I would say, having played, I think Shark Girl is great because she cares about an upgrade being attached to an enemy. That's something that we care about. That's something we're going to take advantage of. If you can get both Gatekeeper, Suppression Fire, and the Deathglow onto something, you can deal massive amount of damage. I don't know what ally you're so concerned about that you need to deal 8 damage to it, but sometimes that or not 8, 5. Actually, okay, yeah, that's actually more realistic. I was thinking that it was a +2 boost, but yeah, 5 damage that can one-shot a lot of just minions that you don't care about. Although then I suppose you don't get to ready back up with the Deathglow. Either way, Shark Girl, cool include, kind of auto. Ironheart, just a great card. Didn't get to play her, but it's hard to not respect the fact that you just get to basically play a minion for 1, an ally for 1, draw a card, buy back some of that. That's great. Angela, I can see in this deck you want to get minions out, you want to get the Gatekeeper on, you want to get the Suppression Fire on. She can. I will say that having played her, she can be a little bit of a distraction in a Valkyrie deck because you're putting on a minion, and yes, that means you get a free ready, but if you just didn't have the minion there, you wouldn't need the additional ready. That's kind of all hearsay. At the same time, she just allows Valkyrie to come down and just do her thing, plus she's, a 0-cost ally that attacks for 2, and that's pretty cool. Nick Fury, wish I had gotten to play him in the game. There was actually a point when, if I had him, the game would have swung in a much better direction, but he ended up in the discard pile and was not a choice. And then Throg, who I definitely love, not necessarily the best ally you can have, but he does a lot of work. And a tough status, meaning that he can get in maybe 3 attacks, is pretty great. Is that everything? Oh, and then the resources, which are just the typical double resources. Got the power in all of us because we have a lot of basic cards. And then, to my surprise, also the power of aggression also fits in here pretty well, which makes sense because you are a hero that is fighting a little bit for just having a good economy, and both Take That and Clobber can be discounted essentially with the power of aggression, and that's great. Obviously, there are other cards that this helps out with, like Martial Prowess and some of our our allies. But then, in terms of what this deck is capable of, is there any Valkyrie card that... Okay, well, Annabelle Riggs does kind of shine here. There was a point when she was very helpful in the game. Flight of the Valkyrie is also just a good card because it fits that same thing. This combined with Gatekeeper can either swing the game or just give you 2 turns of great threat management. Valhalla is a great card that I wish that I'd been able to play out. And then in the context of this game, I would say the only other thing was that just having out both of her weapons and getting full use out of Havathi is just what you're going to want to do. And overall, the rest of the cards in this deck are just going to be parts of her kit. If you're playing Valkyrie, you know her kit pretty well. I think these are the most important cards for this deck. Everything else is just minion summoning or just kind of like keeping us alive. But overall, I loved this deck. Like I said, I might replace Clobber to just give her a little bit better economy. That would be my main goal. I would not be replacing it to try to find a better attack event. But then that is a trade-off because suddenly you're down attack events and you're up resources. Does that kind of like ruin the tempo of your game? I don't know. We'll see. But if I play another aggression, if I play Valkyrie again in the future, this is definitely a deck that I'm going to consider because I had a lot of fun with it. I think it's really good, and I think that now that I have some experience, I know what I would do to pilot it. I would definitely keep in mind Suppression Fire. I know Suppression Fire is good. I overlooked it in the game, and it was something that I didn't even see till I was doing the editing process. But that would have, like I said, bought me a little extra time. But that is it. This ran long. I did not mean for it to run long, but go look up the deck list in the description. Go play it. Retool it the way that you think you need to for the game. Because like I said, this isn't a perfect deck, but I think this is a pretty good start. And until next time, have a great day. You're doing great. Keep it up.